What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over 5 things that kept me broke and prevented me from being able to see any type of financial success, even though I was making a decent amount of money. Now, make sure you stick around because number 4 is one that you likely may be guilty of even to this day. Now, the very first thing is I was living a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. I was getting paid, I paid my bills, I spent money on some things, can't even really remember at this point in time. But at the end of the month, I was always broke. And there were a lot of times where there was more month left and not a lot of money. Now, I had just graduated from college and I had some debt. I had student loan debts, I had credit card debts. I have talked a lot about stepping on a college campus at the age of 19, being able to get a credit card. And that was all new to me. I could go into a store, I can buy things, even if I didn't have enough money to pay for it, and it would just all work itself out later. Now, fast forward to 23, 24 years old, when I graduated from college, I got my first job, and I had that same mentality. I would just do things, and then it would all work itself out later. But that never happened. And that was my life through most of my 20s and all the way up until I was around 30 years old, when then I finally sat down and realized, like, hey, this is not working. You need to figure out where your money is going. And that's whenever I created my very first budget. I didn't know what I was doing because whenever I was growing up, we didn't have the luxury of budgeting. We had just enough money to pay the bills and there was no thought of having a surplus. So early out the gate, I was actually behind the 8 ball because I was living a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, even if I didn't have to. And the only way that I was able to finally get out of that cycle was to actually create a budget so I knew where my dollars were going. Number 2, I was too consumed with what everybody else thought about me, right? We talk about keeping up with the Joneses, and that's exactly what this is, right? I would go out, I'd have to buy the car because I graduated from college. I was the second person in my family to graduate college, and I needed to uphold that lifestyle. I needed the car, I needed the clothes, and I needed to impress people that, number 1, that I didn't even like, and number 2, probably didn't even really care. How often do we go out and we do things for the benefit of other people, thinking that that's going to make them look at us a little bit differently? But little do we know, as soon as they leave, they don't even think about us ever again. That happens more often than I think most people realize. And I fell into that trap early on. I had an image to uphold. I had to make sure that I was the guy that graduated from college. I finally had the good corporate job, first person in my family to actually have that. And I needed to uphold that lifestyle. And that held me back from being able to do anything financially because my mindset wasn't on that. It was all about upholding an image. Now, again, a lot of my life in my 20s and into my early 30s, I fell into these traps. And it took me a while to actually break that, similar to the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. But as soon as I stopped worrying about that, the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle that I was living got a little bit easier to break. Now, the third thing that prevented me from being able to do much was that my entire life was dedicated to swiping a credit card. And here's what I mean. I had a Best Buy card, I had a Sears card. How many of you guys remember Sears? I don't believe they're even still around anymore. I had store charge cards that were maxed out. I needed new tires for my car, it was on a credit card. I needed a new TV for my bedroom or for my living room, it was on my Best Buy card. I needed groceries and it would be on a credit card. My entire paycheck was spent before it even hit my bank account. And that's a huge problem, especially here in the US. We work a job, we make a decent salary, we go out, we put our entire life on credit. And the only thing that we're worried about is, can we make the payment? We don't think about how you bring home $1,000, 950 of that's already committed before it hits your account. And then with the 50 you have left over, you're wondering why you can't get ahead. Think about that. How many times have you went out, bought something on credit, 6 months, 0 interest, 12 months, 0 interest, and you justified it because you can make the payment. And then it gets to the end of that 6-month or 12-month promotional period, you haven't paid it off. And now you've got all of that interest on top of that. And then you just get into this hamster wheel of now you have credit card debt. And once you get into credit card debt, it's like a vice grip. It gets a hold of you and it's really hard for you to get out of it. So a lot of the money that I was making that could have went towards anything, spending time with my family, investing, doing whatever, was going to credit card companies like Sears, Best Buy, and Visa. If you guys are getting any value from this video, please consider subscribing. And while you're at it, smash that thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. The fourth reason is that we blindly trust financial advisors. Now, I'm not somebody that's on social media that tells you that you don't need a financial advisor and they're not worth it, because they absolutely are. But here's the problem. Many of us talk to a financial advisor, we take their advice and we just go with it. There are advisors out there that charge a 1% fee to manage your money. And you hear 1%, you don't really think it's that much money, but you multiply that amount over a 15, 20, 30-year period, you're giving up thousands of dollars to a financial advisor when 9 out of 10 times you're able to invest the money yourself. Just think about it. Most of us that work in corporate America have a 401k. And a lot of us, and I was guilty of this, a lot of us just take the fund that the financial advisor gives us. And we don't ask any questions. We don't know how much it costs for us to be in that fund or that investment. And I think that's a big problem. So one of the things that I did to make sure that I could understand this is I went to my financial advisor at my 401k administrator, and I had a plan in place. I laid out exactly what I was looking for, the time frame that I was looking to retire in, and then I asked for them to give me their opinion on how I should invest. And more importantly, I wanted to know why they made that selection for me so I could understand how my money was being invested and why. I also had a conversation about the fees associated with every investment that I was making. And I also asked them to educate me, explain to me how this works, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And that is really one of the first ways that I was able to start understanding financial concepts and how to invest. So throughout my 20s, as I was investing in my 401k, I was investing in funds that they just put me in, and I wasn't selecting my own because I didn't know any better. Now, I believe that many people fall in this bucket. You may fall in this bucket. If you do, pick up the phone tomorrow, call your 401k plan administrator, and have them walk you through the available investments, the cost associated with each investment, tell them what your plan is, ask them for a recommendation, and more importantly, ask them why they're giving you that recommendation. Spending 30 minutes on the phone with a financial advisor could save you thousands of dollars in unnecessary fees. The fifth thing that I did that allowed me to break free from being broke was I changed from being a consumer to an investor. So back in my late 20s, early 30s, I was always worried about how could I consume, whether that was shoes, video games, vacations, whatever it may be. I was thinking like a consumer. Whenever I got paid, I wanted to just spend my money buying things that I could use. Now my mindset is, okay, I may go out and I might buy the Nikes, I might buy the video game, but I'm also going to invest in those as well. Because I learned early on that the best way for me to invest was in things that I used. So if I knew that I was going to go out and buy a MacBook, why not invest in Apple? If I knew that I was going to go buy some sunglasses, why not invest in Ray-Ban? If I knew I was going to go buy some new workout shoes or running shoes, why not invest in Nike? I started to study the companies of the products that I purchased, and that helped me to understand, how do I chart this stock on a candlestick chart? I also sat in and I listened to investor calls. And whenever they would say something on the call that I didn't understand, I would either look that up or I would have a conversation with my financial advisor so I could understand exactly what was going on. So when you shift away from being a consumer to an investor, that's a completely different mindset. I'm always thinking about invest first, spend second. And once you have that mentality, it changes your entire life. And you're not thinking about how can the money that's coming in go out the door so fast. You're thinking, how can the money that's coming in go in to make me more money later in the future? I don't know. What do you guys think? The 5 things that I laid out, I truly believe making the switch in these 5 categories helped me to break free from being broke and not being able to see any progress financially to actually seeing the most financial progress that I've ever seen over the past 8 to 10 years. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think.